know, it's so crazy this morning, uh, during the workout, we had about, I think 12 guys or so in the hot box. And I looked down and realized that roughly 50% of those men were wearing F3 socks. And I said, woe be it to the 50% of guys who made a terrible decision this morning and wore conventional loser socks rather than F3 socks, because helmet, life's
Yes, sir.
too short to
wear crappy socks.
wear crappy socks.
Nice.
So
I've heard that before.
yeah. Thank you,
Well,
I
Buck.
believe it's true.
I think based on our conversation last week, guys that aren't wearing F3 socks, their calves kind of look saggy, and they're just
There's that,
not
and they
firm
also
and-
their testosterone is lower.
yeah.
Their estrogen
They
is higher.
Tend to have moobs.
It's just horrible. Yeah.
Kind of all the way around. You're just
Yeah.
not the man you could be.
Low integrity. It's a low integrity move.
Low integrity situation.
Low
Oh,
integrity
for sure.
socks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might
These
think a guy's a pretty good guy, but
Nope.
you can tell by his feet.
Yeah.
Tell by his feet. Mud gear socks, good guy.
If you're going to be a winner, you're going to need a coach.
Sharpening doesn't happen by accident. A blade left untouched will rust, and a man left unchallenged will stagnate. Every man needs friction, resistance, and a whetstone to grind away weakness and reveal his true edge. Welcome to the Whetstone, where we reject comfort, disrupt the status quo, and forge men ready for impact. Hosted by Dredd, Dark Helmet, and me, The Plague. This is where men step out of the drift and into acceleration, because iron sharpens iron, and no man sharpens alone.
And we're back.
Nice. Well, gosh, last week, Dark Helmet, you were on the COT podcast.
Yeah.
Which was good, right?
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Very-
It was great.
Good. All right, good.
And then
I haven't had a chance to listen to that yet. So how'd it go?
It was fine. I felt a little discombobulated. Turns out I'm not as quick as I used to be or something. I couldn't follow everything as fast as we kind of bounced around different topics and things, but I think it was good. It was good. We had Niseko on there, who is a Nantan up in New Jersey area, I believe it is. Essex, I believe. Yep. Super good guy. He looks like he's probably 55 or so, but he is actually like 74 or something like that, 73 or something. Yeah.
Wow.
That
Clean
looks
living
amazing.
up in Essex, New Jersey.
I mean, they drink that mountain water, baby. It just trickles right down. It's nice and
That's
cool
right.
and clean. Yeah.
And the F3 socks.
Keeps him. Could be the F3 socks.
Could
That's a
be
good
the
call.
F3 socks.
Good call.
Yeah.
It might be it. Yeah.
Well, we also so I had a chance to be on the High Impact Man podcast, and I've had several guys reach out on the Nation Slack. So just specifically Miyagi from the Fort says to tell you hi, Helmet.
A young blade of mine.
Yeah, Huffy from F3 Tornado Valley. So it's really cool, right? Guys just reaching out saying, hey, thanks for sharing your story. And any guy that's shared their story out there, I love listening to those. There's just a lot to be learned. So, and then the episode that most recently for us that launched, really diving into some of the current events, right? Talking about, the Charlie Kirk stuff and the subway stabbing that happened in North Carolina. And, we titled that episode, right, as Help Is Not Coming.
By the way, I really liked the new graphic.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah. Big fan of that.
I'm not willing to tell you how long I spent on that, but it was sort of like
You'll only get faster with time.
Yeah, right. So, and I really like that idea. I think when we were talking through that last week, it just kind of hit me that, like, in some way, I think as we're trying to invigorate male community leadership, we're trying to get that message across, right? That help is not coming, and that's why we need to build men up as leaders. And sort of towards the end, after we stopped recording, we started talking about consistency. And I know that's
Dread
one of our,
superpower.
yeah, yeah. Well, well, I think, in this world, right, where we're kind of tempted to always be trying the new thing or the new system or the new program or it's always about the new stuff. I thought we could maybe dive into consistency a little bit today and just kind of share maybe the value of that. Why is that so important? Why is that one of the 5 C's of leadership, right? That we lean into from a Q source perspective. But I don't know, would be curious just to start, like, where do you guys find consistency kind of showing up or benefiting you in your daily lives?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, where do I find it alphabetically?
Ah,
Oh, yeah. It's under the C's.
right after B.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do we find consistency as being
Well,
helpful in our lives?
yeah, or just why is it important, I guess, from your perspective?
Since I am the most boringly consistent person you're ever going to meet, uh, what it does for me is it keeps me, it keeps me from making mistakes, you know. So I think it's like a soldierly habit, right? To that is ingrained into you that keeps you from screwing up. And there's a lot of soldierly habits like that that keep you from blowing yourself up or shooting yourself, things like that,
Or someone
right?
else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's
Pre-soldierly, though, did you have
yeah.
trouble with consistency? Were you an inconsistent man pre-soldierly?
Um, yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
I think I was probably mercurial,
Mm.
which is the opposite in my mind of
Yeah. The
cons- and
the heat turns up, the
unreliable.
wind blows, and pretty
Yeah,
soon. Yeah.
and I learned that the more consistent you are, the less thought that goes into it, and the more likely it is you're going to do the right thing, regardless of the situation. And it makes you more effective, which leads you to be more virtuous. I think it's consistency is the least sexy and thus the most undervalued of the 5 C's.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Courage.
everybody
Oh,
loves
yeah,
candor.
courage.
Everybody loves candor, especially when it's
Courage.
not turned on them. They love
That's
to be
right.
candorous toward other men. They love that,
That's
right?
right.
They think that's
But
great.
consistency, unchanging in nature, standard, or effect over time, to me, is very rare, actually, amongst
Hmm.
I think
leaders.
I will agree. I think not only is it rare, but I also and I know that when they're listed in Q source, when Dredd listed in Q source, they are alphabetical. That's part of why I was kind of
Right. Oh, sure.
poking a little at the beginning, right? But when you look at candor and commitment and all right, all these all the values, consistency is kind of like the backbone for all of them.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
if you're only courageous every once in a while, then who the heck cares, right? If you only exhibit candor, again, like I was saying before, like when I'm speaking hard truths to you, it's fine. I'm not demanding to hear them back so much, right? That's not
Right.
consistency, right? That's an integrity. And so when I think of consistency, I think of that sort of integrity as well going along with it. And I think consistency is the backbone of the other 4. And part of the reason I say that is because I'm really good at a lot of those other 4 a lot of the time, but not all the time.
Mhm.
and what my problem is when I fall down off the consistency horse, I sometimes I fall a little harder than I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
if I'm not seeking contentment, right, uh, and I'm doing it consistently, I might be content, but I haven't been real consistent. So the erosion of my contentment foundation has progressed to a point where then I go, bam, right? That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So
Consistency is also the mother of all guardrails,
Mm.
in the sense that it isn't much of a guardrail if you only do it sometimes, right? Well, if you're on a twisty mountain road that is dangerous, and some of the dangerous spots have a guardrail and some don't, well,
it's a huge gaps. Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
No.
And so uh, there's oftentimes when I do not feel whatsoever like performing one of my guardrails, one of my bricks. And I only do it in the name of consistency.
Hmm.
I mean, that happens a lot. That's the only reason I do it. And it kind of cracks me up, you know? I was like, well, if I can even think it on a given day, well, it's not even important. I don't feel like doing it's not important. I do this today, but I do it anyway in the name of consistency. And of course, that's why a guardrail is powerful, because you keep doing it over and over again. So the fact that it's the mother of all guardrails to me makes it a virtue of its own,
Yeah.
which doesn't get discussed very often.
A couple kind of follow-up questions. So we've talked about accountability. We talked about intentionality, right? The last episode we talked about that sort of a deliberate action towards a defined or specified ends, right?
Yep.
Talk to me about integrity. What is, because sometimes I hear people like interchange integrity, accountability. To me, integrity is doing what I say I'm going to do, even when nobody's looking, kind of thing. But
So for me, integrity is part of it is one of the three aspects of a man's life over which he truly has dominion. So whereas we think we have control over all these things, we don't. Other people, what's going to happen in our jobs? No, we think we do, but we don't, and it drives us to distraction. What we actually have is dominion granted us from God over only three things. One of them is input, and that would be the wholesomeness of what you deposit into body and soul. You have dominion over that. The second would be your heart, which is the purity of your thought, feelings, and emotions. And the third one, which is output, and that's the integrity of your words and deeds. Meaning, is what you say and what you do, is it consistent with what you claim to believe? And to me, that is what integrity is. Integrity doesn't necessarily mean honesty, because you may say honesty is not important, or honesty is less important. And I would think a politician, if they were being honest, might say honesty is less important than effectiveness. If I have to be dishonest to achieve an end for my constituents, that's excusable. So I would say, fine, go with that, right? So integrity to me is that there is not a misalignment in what you have proclaimed to believe and what you say and what you do. There's a very close alignment between
for
those
good
things.
or for bad.
For good or for bad. You and I, Dark, would probably agree on what's bad.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah. Fair.
Right.
Yeah.
You and I would probably agree on that. If you ever look at one of those things that makes me laugh on Twitter, is a guy that is really good at collecting all people's old tweets. And some politician or whatever says, takes a really strong position and then says, this you?
This you?
Right. From 2 years ago,
or you took 8 years ago,
right, where you took the opposite position because it was detrimental or benefited this, whatever.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that would be a good shamer for me.
I was going to say, because Dredd and I have talked many, many times, and he even says, like, he goes back and listens to old podcasts, reads old things that he wrote, and he's like, okay, well, at least I've been consistent.
Yeah.
Right. Guys don't have to agree, whatever.
Right.
But I haven't moved on this,
right,
to any great degree. Yeah. I think that really gets some guys kind of twisted up and uncomfortable, because, when you say integrity, they immediately think it has to be in accordance with the things that they value as positive things. Right. Well, if he has integrity, then he's a good guy. He might be a mass murderer, but he has integrity.
They do the same thing.
You know what he is, right?
Right. They do the same thing with integrity they do with purity.
Yeah.
Purity does not mean good.
No.
It means consistent. It means
of one make all the way through, right?
That's right. You could have remember that old Ivory soap commercial was
99.9%.
99.4
100.
Yeah. So pure. Well, it could be comprised of 99 and 44 100s, horse manure.
Those are dog crap, right? Yeah.
Right. It's still pure.
It's very pure.
So
Incredibly pure.
people do tend to get make
Yeah,
it.
they
So
get
when I
twisted up.
say, that your heart, dominion over your heart means purity of thought, feelings, and emotions, what I mean is, again, they're consistent,
Yeah.
and 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 they match up with what you say you believe. So if I say that I believe that a man's sole and exclusive energy and interest, sexual interest, should be into his marriage, I say I believe that. That for me to speak with integrity, I have to, I have to, I got
Live
to
it every day.
live it every day. Now, if another guy says, "Well, I don't believe that at all. I believe that variety is the spice of life, and I can
open marriages."
right." Well, whatever you say you believe. This is why I'm always asking guys, "What do you say you believe?" And tell me, define that word. And I admire a man more who can explain his beliefs that I consider to be pure evil than a guy that says he believes something and I ask him, what does
Then
that
doesn't
mean?
do
And
it. Yeah.
well, no, he can't tell
Or he
you.
doesn't have any idea. Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't, he can't, he hasn't defined his terms. He can't tell you what he means. And I said, if you don't know what you mean, that probably means you don't know what you believe. And if you don't know what you believe, how could you possibly live to it or convince anyone else that that's the right way to go? Yeah, that's a rhetorical question. You can't
Right.
possibly do it. And then you are going, getting back to the theme of what we're talking about, and then you're going to be inconsistent. You're going to be. You have to be.
You get trapped in it, right?
That's right.
And to some degree, right? And that's it's funny because one of our core values at work is act with integrity and purpose. And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, I got it, yeah." And I'm
Right.
like, we could say it's a core value, but let me point to some things. Let me show you that, right? Because what I tell them is, because usually I say, like, so what do you think that means? Like when I'm orienting people, like, bringing new people on board or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, tell the truth," or like you said, do the right thing when nobody's watching or whatever. And I say, actually, for us here at Rectangle, quadrangle, pentagonal health, whatever we want to call it, right? But what we mean is that we have a mission and a vision, and for us to act with integrity means that if we are doing things that are not consistent with those items, with that mission and with that vision, then we should not be doing those things. And if our mission, stated as it is, I didn't make it up, right? But I'm here for it, right? Is to simplify the business side of healthcare. Okay. Well, then if we're doing things at our company that are not simple, right? If we're not simplifying our own business processes, if we're not acting in a simple way, and we're not looking at all the things that we do for other people and making them less convoluted and less, friction, all that kind of stuff, then we have to stop doing those things. And they're like, "Well, what if it benefits us?" Well, it doesn't matter, right? If you're going to act with integrity, then you have to, it must be like, if simplification is the mission, then that's what we have to do. And like, "Well, but we'd make more money if we left it complicated." Well,
surprisingly, that's a pretty good mission statement.
Right.
As corporate mission statements go, because
I may have helped a little before I come on board.
So simplify to me resonates.
It's reasonable. Yeah.
I would expect, if the leadership of your company is doing it right, if as subordinate, someone in the management system somewhere took some action in furtherance of that. In other words, identified a process, a business process related to healthcare, and removed unnecessary moving parts to it, and could explain it, he'd be rewarded, even if it wasn't exactly what they wanted to see done.
Yes, you would think that. Yes.
That would be leadership integrity.
Yes.
So, you say that in a way that you're not sure if they would, but
that is the correct answer.
Yeah. That is the correct answer.
Yeah. But that's exactly it, right? And so you would hope, kind of, so in the same vein, in your life, right? When you start thinking about your own integrity, your own mission, if you don't know what that is, just like Dredd said, if you can't say what you believe, if you don't have a purpose that is defined, if you don't have a mission that is stated, then how do you know if you're acting with integrity?
Yeah.
Most people think acting with integrity means being a nice guy. And that is unfortunately just not the case. It's not the case, because I know a lot of nice guys actually who don't act with a lot of integrity either. They're nice. I don't know if they're good. I don't know I don't know if I respect them, maybe is a way to say it, but I think they're not. There's a lot of nice guys.
Well, nice is not intentional, committed, and effective. That's what nice means.
I've never heard that.
Wow.
How have I never heard that?
Because I'm working on it. That's next week's
Is it really?
collision learner. Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, that'll probably be out.
That'll
right.
be out.
So
Yeah.
not intentional, committed, and effective.
And
And the reason why a man will turn to being nice is because he knows that he is wandering through life without being intentional, define our terms, right?
Right.
He is not deliberately acting in furtherance of a specified end. So he's not.
he's just wandering.
Each day is its own misadventure, right? He's not. So he is not committed. He is not unwaveringly loyal to his group, and does not have unflinching determination to accomplish his mission. He's not. He's mildly treasonous, right? To his own group, right? Doesn't have his group interest.
No,
They're not paramount.
Yeah.
His own interest or
whatever else. Yeah.
right. Okay. And he's not effective, and meaning he's not accomplishing his mission. And those three states of nature are horrible for a man, because they work against our ingrained and inborn distinctions from women, what makes us men, which is commitment, strength, and courage. That's what God has put in our hearts, so that we can be who we are, what we're supposed to do, so that we can be high impact men and minivan centurions, right? So you got to have, those are the three dots, right? So if I am not intentional, not committed, and not effective, well, that makes me feel misaligned with how I was created. And to get through the day, I'm going to be nice because I'm always issuing a preemptive apology to everyone I come across.
Yeah.
I'm not going to demand anybody meet any particular standard. I'm not even going to express a standard. I might express aspirations like, let's all be nice. Let's all
just get along.
Yeah, can't get along. But I'm not going to take any particular position, because I am a walking, talking apology for my own lack of commitment, strength, and courage. And that's what a nice guy is.
Yeah. There's this, I don't know, he's a human psychologist, behavioral psychiatrist or something. Robert Glover wrote this book called No More Mr. Nice Guy, right? Which maybe
I've heard of this thing.
So he talks about, like, because we don't teach men how to be actual men, right? You see guys kind of they become like this macho jerk version of a man, right? Or they become like or they become like a nice guy, right? And then they just kind of get walked on. And I love the kind of what do you call that? An acrostic?
Acrostic? Why?
An acronym?
Acronym, maybe. Nice. I'm thinking about. Anyway,
that's an acronym. I don't know what an acrostic is.
I love that. It's funny. When I first got clean in 2018, I went through and defined my values, and integrity is one of them. But I have the definition. So I did definitions, and then kind of, what do I look like, or what am I doing when I'm living those out? So I had follow through with what I say I'm going to do, and don't compromise my values based on my ego. And then I had, I have to know my values, apply my values to decision making, honor relationship priorities with my actions, do the right thing when nobody else is around, and don't perform for others. Rather put values into action. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing. So then when I think about consistency, then, so like thinking of Q source and maybe just within F3, consistency is one of the leadership principles, but we should be applying that to all areas of our life in theory.
It is, in fact, the spinal column of leadership, as Dark Helmet so aptly described it. It is that which connects all other component parts to the core. Without it, it doesn't. You could be
Then it's like you could trip and fall and be courageous one day. You know, like
That's
it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yep.
Right. What difference does Medal of Honor level courage matter on Tuesday if on Wednesday you back that up with cowardice? Your lack of consistency means no one can depend upon you.
You know, and that is why I think and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dredd. I don't know if you have more to
You
say.
didn't. I stopped. My lips had stopped
Good.
moving.
Put your skin over your teeth. Every once in a while at a workout, I'll say that because I've heard you say it, and it always makes guys super uncomfortable.
You're like, what?
I don't like.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I was going to say, you know, this is one of the things that I've had to kind of come to as well with guys in F3, anywhere, I suppose, really, but particularly in F3. And there's a lot of guys who get really angry or frustrated, and they write you nasty things, or they tell you things you ought to be doing, or they give you unsolicited advice, you know, and tell you ought to be doing this, or you ought to be doing that, or whatever. And I have in the past, I have gotten really frustrated with that because I'm like, I'm out here busting my hump all day long, you know, trying really hard to provide something and to lead and to, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And it used to really annoy me. And then I don't remember when it wasn't all that long ago. Just, I mean, within the last, you know, 6-8 months or something, like it just hit me. And I can't remember what the thing was that sort of, you know, triggered it to make it, you know, click over in my head. Right. But I thought, you know what, here we are. And this is why consistency is so important in leadership, right? Because here we are, we're in this loose organization, right? And these guys, it's something that has meant something to them. And so they feel a little piece of ownership in it because it's deeply personal and it has meant something to them. And they are terrified that some Yahoo like me is going to get out there and screw it up. And then once again, in the long, long list of men and particularly institutional disappointments that they've collected over the years, right? That now they'll have to put F3 on that list because this guy doesn't have integrity, because he isn't consistent, because he isn't living the 5 C's, because he doesn't exhibit, you know, those values and those characteristics and those virtues that we want. Because I think they're really legitimately scared, and they react, you know, and part of that is they act out by trying to control the thing around them, right? By telling me what to do, or, you know, whatever it might be. But once that kind of clicked over in my head, I have almost infinite grace now for those guys to say, hey man, tell me more about what it is you're feeling, right? Hey, I don't know if that's a bad idea at all. Why don't you tell me more about what it is you're feeling? Because the chances are good, right? That's the problem, is we've had so much of that in our world. I mean, we see it. I mean, it's happening right before our eyes every single day, all over social media, all over the news, all over everything, right? Institutions and men failing the people they've been called to lead. Now, I'm going to fail you. I'll tell you right up front. I'll screw something up somewhere along the way. But the difference between, I think, a 5C leader and another kind of leader, a guy who is striving with all his heart and mind to be as virtuous as he knows how to be and fails, right, is when it's pointed out to me, I promise I won't blame it on somebody else, right? I promise I won't try and dodge it. I'll pick it up and I will address it, and I will take it head on, and I will correct if it needs correcting, or I will zealously advocate my position to the contrary, right? And we'll have that discussion. But But so many guys have been failed for so long because men aren't consistent, because you don't know what to predict. In my home, that was probably one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
Is you never knew how Catmouth was going to be, right? Was he going to beat the crap out of you that day? Was he going to yell at you? Was he going to be nice? Was he going to, you never had any idea. And so you're constantly in this place where you have this hypervigilance and this fear of being failed all the time.
Well, I think you hit it right on the head when you said, was he going to be nice?
Yeah.
What you wanted him to be, and what these men are asking of you now, is that instead of being nice, that you
Good
are
point.
kind, which is kinetic,
Oh, good. We're getting the freaking plague.
integrated,
All right. Kinetic, integrated,
non-compromising, and determined. Nice is,
You put that in your acrostic and smoke it.
but yeah, smoke that acrostic. So
I am.
right. So kindness and niceness don't look alike at all. Right?
Well, based on the definitions that you have just
Right.
placed there, yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, they're almost they're I wouldn't say opposites, but they're definitely in competition for one. With
sure.
one another.
And we tend to use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny that you say that, and maybe this is where you kind of had your mind on it anyway.
right.
But when you're reading about the Christ-like virtues, niceness is not in there. Kindness sure is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Gentleness might be, right? But
Right.
You're right. Niceness isn't in there.
No.
Yeah.
Right. It's very unkind of Catmouth to leave you wondering whether or not today was a day that he was going to be one thing or another. See, that's not integrated.
Yeah.
Which is the gerund or whatever of integrity. I don't think gerund's the right word.
I'm not an English major.
Not English major.
Very good. Yeah.
Right. So
It's the past participle. I don't know.
right. The kind man, because he's kinetic, he's putting power into motion, right? He's energetic, expending energy for a reason. He's integrated. What he says and does is almost perfectly aligned with what he believes. He never surprises you with anything he says because you know what he believes. You're like, oh yeah, that's the boss, man. It's like, I could have told you he was going to say that, right?
Come to my house, ask my kids, right? I guarantee you could start a sentence.
Right.
Dad always says, start the sentence, they'll finish it.
Right.
Right. My kids have never, and it's funny because, now that they're older, and Dredd, you probably see this as well, right? So Plague, buckle up, right? This is for later, right? On the Three Dad network. But now that they're older, oldest married, right? Great kid that she married. I mean, really just a good dude. And even the middle, right? So the soon to be 20-year-old, like they have come back now and said, and you hear people say this stuff and you're like, oh, yeah, hopefully that happens, right? How much smarter you get when you get older or whatever, right? But they're like, Dad, we hear about other friends that we have and their parents and the things that happen and stuff. And they're like, we've never once, like not for even a millisecond, they've never doubted that they would be protected. They've never doubted where I stand on moral issues. Because we've talked about it ad nauseum, right? And we've discussed it, and I've made it clear, and hopefully, right, much as I can, I have been as consistent as I can. Because I remember, it's funny when you just defined nice a minute ago, Dredd. I think that was exactly how I was living pre F3, a walking apology.
Yeah.
Just an aw shucks guy.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of sad. There's some elements in like the definition of a sad clown, right? That are kind of that nice definition, right? I mean, I think so. And then, Dredd, just curious, when you're thinking about these acronyms, or are they?
An acrostic is a poem, by the way. I just looked it up. So
good.
It's definitely not that. So
not that.
An acronym.
Are these separate or related, or how do they fit into? It seems like they connect directly to the concept of consistency.
Oh yeah. That's why I've been
Um,
thinking about it so much.
okay, so then when we think about consistency and sort of, fitness, fellowship, faith, or maybe it's the get right, live right, lead right, leave right, or G3L. Truly, that consistency is the backbone of all of it, right? Is
Yep.
kind of what I'm
I
hearing you
think
say.
so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. And if it is in fact the spinal column, then it is in fact the central nervous system, which means that nothing else can function at all without that. Or if that is damaged in some way or compromised in some way, it will not work.
Yeah.
So I'm a stickler, and I try to do it in a way that will help men get better at it rather than just be a jerk about it. But I'm a stickler for consistent calls during the workout.
Mm.
The next exercise is the side straddle
Amen.
hop. Starting position.
Remember that old
move.
video you used to have out
Yeah.
there?
Oh yeah, that's right. In cadence, exercise. 1, 2, 3, halt, recover. So I believe that the consistency you develop in that small thing is a way to develop consistency in bigger things.
Yeah.
It is an ingraining of habit in a much smaller way, and it makes it easier to do the big things. So at a workout, I did it this morning. If the cue does not call recover, I stay wherever I was.
100% every time.
So we're doing
Drives them nuts.
all right. We're doing Merkins halt, and then if the guy says the next exercise is a side straddle hop, I'm still there. And then I'm when I at an AR later, and I say, listen, you have to treat me because I don't hear very well because I'm old, like an old dog waiting for a recognizable command. And everything you say other than the recognizable command is gibberish to me.
Hmm.
On your 6, I don't know what that means. Flapjack, I don't know where all this stuff came from. Recover, the next exercise is. Those are recognizable commands. Now, I will say to a guy that is consistently inconsistent. In other words, every single time he says, starting position, you're in it,
Yeah.
which I detest. And I say, at least you're consistent in your inconsistency.
Yep.
And I can depend upon that. That's at least something. That's at least something.
Now fix it, you idiot. No, I'm just kidding.
But if a man is inconsistent in small things, is he likely to be consistent in large things?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Scripture would indicate otherwise. The truths of the universe are such that that's the deal, right? I can't trust you to be consistent in big things unless you are consistent in small things. I give you these small things so that I learn. I tweeted this the other morning, and it got some guys, and I put it in my little Blade text chain too, and it got a couple guys kind of fired up. I said, to be trusted is a better thing than to be loved, and they didn't like that. And they were like, but love is what it's all about. I'm like, right. And I can give you that freely, independent of whether or not you're an idiot. Right. So I think to be trusted is a better thing. And the only way I can trust you is if you are consistent, is if you are predictable, as if you do the same things the same way. And it's funny because I do the same kind of thing, right? A guy's down here and he goes he says exercise position moves. That's a favorite. I don't know where that got ingrained into the fort, but it did, right? Exercise position moves. And I'll just yell starting. And they're like, ooh, and they give me all kinds of crap, right? Or little things like on these running workouts, it became a thing down here. The Nantan kind of said, well, this is what we ought to do. You count the men before you leave to make sure that you come back with the same number of men.
Reasonable.
I think it's a fine practice, right?
Yeah.
It's great. So they'll count before we leave. We come back, and they start counting before everybody's back. And I'm like, well, what the hell are we counting for? Like, they're not back here. Like, now I get it. If you look around, you're like, Like if you think everybody's back and you count and then you find there's one gone, different, right? I'm talking there's 18 guys, 20 guys. There's 4 guys back that have, and not everybody's made it back yet. And you're like, one. I'm like, shouldn't you be either finding those guys or waiting for them or something? Like, and guys are like, well, I got to go. Okay. Well, then tell me you're leaving and I'll make sure that we count your number so that you're accounted for, right? The whole point of this, I thought, was to make sure we didn't lose a guy out there. Nobody collapsed. Nobody got hit by a car, or whatever, right? But we do these things in an inconsistent way. And I was like, well, then why are you bothering to do them at all? Like, what would the purpose be if you don't plan to, from the beginning to the end, have that integrity? Then why are you bothering to do any of it?
Right.
Same thing with the calls. Same thing with, and some guys get really twisted up when we talk about form. Look, it's okay if you don't want to do the Merkins, right? Or do them on your knees, or do them how, whatever. But like, whatever it is you're doing isn't helping you. It isn't helping you. So it's that, like you said, that it's that unwillingness to hold a standard is problematic, and it is rampant. It is rampant.
We locally, and I'm sure other regions do this too, right? We do Q school, and then that's where we teach the new guys about all of this stuff.
Hey, everybody from the fort, are you listening to that? They do Q school.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice, right? Because we talk about some of the history of F3 and
It's kind. It's not nice.
It's right. It's excellent. No.
It's advantageous because
we do Q school for that. But for so a guy like me, right? I got 3 young kids. I'm doing too many, podcast content things. I've got a normal job. Where's the Q school? I guess, let me answer my own question, right? Probably with my Whetstone and my shield lock, but is it habits? Like, are habits you mentioned the term bricks earlier, right? I think we talked about some of that. So if I'm like, I don't even know where to start, how do I start laying that first brick of consistency with fitness, or just one brick at a time?
Now, I would say Dredd might have a different answer. My opinion is it does not entirely matter which brick you pick up first. I think there are some that will get you to the end like that are like, if you had the ability to pick up any brick and they were all laid before you and you could pick up the best ones, there are probably some that would be better for you than others. But my feeling is just pick up anything and start and then build from there, right? So if the first brick has to be, you say workout, but maybe the first brick is get up.
Sure.
Consistently, even if you're not working out, right? Or if back that up on the other end, if the problem is you can't get up, consider, okay, maybe the consistent brick that you need to start with is go to bed at a certain time, right? Turn off your phone at a certain time, whatever it is, right? So for me, I'm not overly concerned about what brick you pick up first. It's more that you develop the habit, that you start building consistency, because then you'll figure out the other bricks as you go.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the 3 hardest things to accelerate last week, right? The queen, the M, and then I think it was prayer, maybe, or 3 most important. So maybe not. I don't know if you.
I think they're the central cue points to each F. So for me, if you can't hit the queen, your king's not gonna, and your jester's not gonna, so you have to start with the queen. In the second F, you have to start with the M. If your M falls apart, the rest of it won't matter. And I think the third F is the prayer, because I don't know if that, I guess, yeah, I think we did say they were the hardest. Yeah, they're the hardest too. They're the hardest.
But they're not the hardest because they're the hardest. They're the hardest because they're the first and the most important. And
I think, I guess what I mean is, I find, maybe this might be personal to me, I find it easier to go to a workout than I do to control my queen.
Oh, totally.
100%. Nobody's sitting next to me at the table slapping food out of my hand.
Right, that's right. I wish they would.
I wish they would, but they do not.
Right. Yeah. I'm much more likely to let my queen run amok than I am to lose my temper.
Hmm.
Even when I'm fat, I can sometimes, most of the time control my temper. But and then in the second F, uh, I mean, your kids, they're particularly when they're small. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
dealing with them on like your kids don't challenge you like your wife does, right?
Right.
You know, your shield lock is your buddies, and they're guys. You know, your mammon, you can just quit, go to get it. The long hauling it with your that's big boy
I'm
business,
going to
right?
change a lot more jobs than I am women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when people say, "Well, the divorce rate's too high," what is it? 40%. I'm like, it's only 40%.
Well,
I
it's a
mean,
lot higher than that, but still, even so.
we think of it higher than that. And then when you get to the third F, geez, all sorts of people go to church that they don't care at all, right?
Boy, not the truth.
And you can always break open the Bible and read it, pretend to read it, whatever. But sitting there and actually talking to God, actually talking to the Creator,
Yeah.
it's deeper.
That's hard. That's hard.
It's hard, man.
Anything past the kind of the rote, like, thank you for this day, thank you, Jesus, for the food, whatever, like that kind of stuff. Like once
Yeah.
you kind of get past that sort of, formulaic, if you really want to have a true conversation, true relationship, then it's a lot
Yep.
harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And conversely, if you're hitting those three, well, it makes the others pretty darn easy.
Yeah.
And I would also add to that, and if for some reason any of the rest of those, like you're injured or you're, the kids are on a trip or, I don't know, whatever the thing is, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it will make those things easier, but even if those things are not really hitting on all the cylinders, if you keep those three squared, you're much more likely to be able to pick up the others later, or to stay consistent and to maintain the leaderly kind of focus that you're trying to have, right? To be the man you're supposed to be. That's, if you're able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like those three are less susceptible to the flux, maybe, in terms of like the relationship ending. Like like I could get injured, but I'm still gonna eat likely, right? So I could always be
Oh, I see what you're saying.
accelerating that, and even if I don't know, just kind of thinking out loud. But
I think they're more. I think maybe what you're saying is it's not so much the flux as it is. It's those are a lot of times those are more internally driven.
yeah.
Right. They're not things that happen to you.
Yeah.
Right. The food in my face, I always have dominion over.
Right.
Generally speaking, like no one's shoving anything down my throat, and really in my world, no one's depriving me of anything either.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with my, with my wife. I can control how much I do and don't pour into her, how much attention I do and don't pay. How loving am I? How kind am I being? Right. I
Mhm.
can control
Yep.
that. My kids are going to make this, and they're going to grow up and move away. Right. So at some point, so it's fine. It's good. That's what they're supposed to do. But it's going to change over time. Same thing with prayer. Right.
Yeah.
I might, maybe I break both my legs. I can't make it to church for a month or two. That's fine. Right. But that I don't have a lot of, or COVID happens. Right. And they shut down all the churches. Now what? Well, I don't have control over that. Right. But I do have control over the thing that I can do, which is to maintain this divine conversation.
Yeah. What about, so let's say I've got, because the more I think about it, right, like some of the, I don't know, probably, so if we're thinking about the lead right quadrant, maybe for example, as you're like, are there bricks in each category so like if I'm working on candor and obviously consistency is not maybe its own brick, but is that how, like, would there be habits or certain things in every?
Whoa. Is there consistency to being consistent? It's so meta.
Yeah, maybe there is. I don't know, but is that how guys, depending on where a guy is at, if he's like, well, I really want to be more consistent in this area, it's just developing those habits.
I think so. I mean, Dredd, I don't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think so. Because in fact, I tell guys that they're like, why, excuse me, I'm worried about this, or I'm struggling with this. And I'm like, okay, well, let's back this out to its most basic elements. And what are those bricks that you ought to be laying that will help you to build the guardrail to keep you so that you're always exhibiting appropriate amounts of candor, right? What would that look like? And for every guy, it's going to be a little bit different, right? And so we kind of go through that process. There's a scripture that basically says, look, there is a law decreed in heaven, and if you receive any blessing in your life, it's because of obedience to that law, right? Whatever it is. And it can apply to any number of situations or things, right? But it exists. There are laws, and your obedience to that law garners a blessing. You're not going to magically get one unless you're living that law, right? And so I look and go, okay, well, what are the principles then of this law that I need to put in my life, or to have a guy put in hit, whatever, right? So that we can be consistent to march down that road and continue to accelerate.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with like the sort of like the ultimate mission, right? That we're all susceptible to, or like this idea that all men are created equal, sort of this like some of those different hierarchies maybe that we have. And no, this is really good. I think it's also too, right, what we were talking about with the Black Diamond leadership thing, right, is like some of those habits may not be like check this box, but it may be like, what's the, at least for me, I'm thinking of the term like trigger, or what are some of those things that can help me, like if I know every time my wife brings up this topic, I need to snap out of a certain thing and give her whatever type of attention, or I don't know if that's making any sense or not, but
I'd probably file that under P for preparedness. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But look, there's a guy, he was a blade for a long time, and unfortunately finally had to fire him because he basically through his behavior indicated to me that he outright refused to do anything that I was trying to help him to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that sucked. But he would say, my wife and I, or my wife does this and I get mad, or my wife does this and I, whatever. And I would say, got it. Okay. So now that you know that is a thing that is likely to happen every single freaking day, right?
Yeah.
I want you to picture it in your mind, and I want you to think to yourself, what are the feelings that you start to have in those moments, right? And what would be an appropriate response now that you're sitting here unemotional, uninvolved, and all that kind of stuff? Like, what would be an appropriate response? And he'll tell me, and I say, okay, well, or he would say, well, there isn't one. I was you know what? Never mind. I don't want them to. Okay, but pretend there was. Like what might it be? Well, it's really hard. I understand. I get it. But let's. So yes, I think that's the. I think the preparedness and kind of that. We pray is a principle that I like from a guy named David Bednar, and he says, when you pray, God created everything, right? And he created it spiritually, and then he created it physically, right? So it was conceived of, it didn't just fall out. It wasn't just like, I don't know, I'll just shake this can and, oh, there's dogs, like whatever, right? So he conceived of it, right? Knew what was going to happen, organized it in his mind, or what's the thing, what man, if he was going to build a tower, wouldn't count the cost first? Like he's not going to, right? So you plan it out, you create this thing in your mind and conceptually and spiritually before you go and create it physically, right? And so every interaction you can think through, right? You can't think of everything necessarily, right? But you can be prepared for, I almost say 80%, right? That's a pretty good number, right? Right? You can be prepared for most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, and I think the consistency piece, because one of the other questions I was, we'll probably talk about in a future episode, right? But as a leader in an organization, and even in F3, you think about building relationships with other people, right, to maybe influence decision making, or and so then when I kind of reveal that or reel that back, I have to be consistent in all of these other things first before that needs to become my focus, right? And so then just the way that all of those things kind of come together in the way that this consistency piece is truly the backbone is really cool. And I love how you said, so we've got nice and we've got kind, and those are definitely some things maybe we can unpack, but
Hey,
we also
give us another preview really quick. Is there another word in there for the next one? Nice, kind. Is there another one?
No, that's it.
Is it just those two?
So
okay,
far.
all right. Yeah. So, good. All right, keep going.
So far. I'm going to come up with another one, like, test or something. I don't know.
Long suffering. Wow, that's a long one.
That's all. It's going to be short. It's going to be short.
Yeah.
But I think that came across my mind when I was thinking about it, was that you hear those words all the time.
Yeah.
And I always wonder what people mean by it, right? Or if they've thought through what the implications are of it.
Well, and that's why I think, and Olaf will be mad at me, but what is it? F point, number 3, right? Foundational principle 3 is language. Isn't that is it 3?
2 is language.
2. I knew I'd screw it up, but yeah. But there you go, right?
Yeah, right.
It's one of the absolute foundations, because we can't define these things, then how do we know what we're doing?
Yeah. You can't speak, man. You can't, if you can't speak the same language, then you can't accomplish anything. So you have to constantly be defining terms and reclaiming words, because goo is always pulling words out and denaturing them to the point where they ultimately try to flip them upside down, to mean the exact opposite of what they actually mean. So, virtuous leader has to be non-compromising about that. Say, no, I'm just not going to let you take that word. And I'm going to stand on what I think the proper definition of it is. Well, everybody thinks it means this. Oh, well, go talk to everybody else then.
Yeah.
That's not
1,000
what
flies buzzing around a pile of crap doesn't make it make it dessert.
Right. Truth is not determined by plebiscite. We don't vote on truth. Truth is what it is. And really, most people, great majority of people, are incapable or unwilling to accept truth. So they try to either deny that a particular truth is in fact true, or deny the fact that there are objective and eternal truths at all, and say, well, truth can be whatever you think it is, to the point where people that believe in truth are looking at people are afraid to do that because they're being nice, saying, how are we going to even communicate if you can't, right? If we can't agree on the elemental things, if you can't define a word without the word in your definition, then it's going to be very difficult. Right.
Yeah.
It isn't a thing at all. It's a circular argument that you're going to just use to avoid the consequences of truth.
And unfortunately,
that
we
ain't
have so
nice.
much of that, right? It's not nice. Well,
it ain't nice.
Yeah.
It's not even kind. It's stupid. Yeah. But we've been beaten over the head with it. We get beaten over the head with it for so long that I think a lot of people who don't work out with us in the morning, I'm just going to say it, right? Who don't work out in the morning, who don't strive to introduce just a little bit of chaos, all those kinds of things, who have made choices that are not making them more durable. They have now become punch drunk from this bludgeoning of this, the way that goo uses words and the way that goo acts and the way that the things that they do. And they just kind of acquiesce, just fine. Yeah, you can be whatever you want to be. Right. Yeah. Or fine. Okay. Yeah. No, nice. It's great. Whatever. I don't care. Just leave me alone. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it. In fact, it was funny because I told my wife this morning, something happened. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, as situations like this, when I kind of go, remember that, 85 acres that I sent you that, that I said, we ought to buy this. And then I can go disappear. And then I don't have to deal with any of you people, right. And she goes, well, and she said this just this morning, and it really it got me. She goes, well, honey, unfortunately for you, God didn't make you, Frank Schwartz, to be invisible. And I was like, well, that hurts my feelings, So what do? I dust myself off and I pull my big boy pants up and I get back to work. right?
Yeah.
Because as a leader, that's not, you don't have that option. You don't have that option.
Well, and you think about Goo Nation, right? And I feel like I can always find someone to say that they sympathize, right? If I wear my heart on my sleeve, and they tell me pretty lies, all I want is someone to believe. But honesty is such a lonely word.
Not Geddy Lee.
Not Geddy Lee.
Is not Geddy Lee.
It's Billy Joel.
It is Billy Joel. That's exactly right.
No, I appreciate you guys so much. I think this is, well, like this consistency may be one we revisit. I think it's just thinking about my own stuff. It kind of brings me back to then what is my daily mission? What is the thing I'm being consistent to? And so I think it seems like all roads lead to there's like a couple big pillars, right? I mean, clearly the concentrica and making sure you get those relationships in place to work through
There's
it
like
all.
a fitness pillar and like maybe a fellowship pillar.
It's weird.
There might be another one in there. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, someday somebody will write a book about it all.
Someday. And then rewrite it.
Finally.
And then write it. Yeah.
And then
Right.
rewrite it.
Rewrite it.
Appreciate you guys.
Pretending in the fire inside had truth. Running from battles I didn't want to be.